Don't give up, you know it's true. You gotta do what you wanna do.
Hello and welcome to UPSC Gangsters. Today I'll be taking you through the Hindu's business news. Alright, for the date 22nd September. So I'll be taking you through the important business news and economic news of that day. Alright, so let's get started. The first news piece, the heading says, Plan soon to revive investment, says Arun Jaitley. Subheading, Finance Minister concedes problem with private investment. Prime Minister to be briefed on strategies to tackle slowdown. So, the slowdown they're talking about here is the GDP growth that has gone down. They're referring to the GDP growth that has gone down. Previously it was in 7 point something, that you would all know. But right now it has gone down to 5 point something. Alright? So we are in the 5-ish percent GDP growth stage. Alright, which is a 2% reduction. There are many factors for it, which we saw in the other editorials and all that. So let's get to the next point. The minister's comment suggests that the inclusion of other products currently outside GST's purview, such as petroleum and alcohol, would take time. Alright, so note this. From this point we get to know that petroleum and alcohol does not come under GST. These kind of things will be definitely asked in prelims. Those goods that are not covered under the GST regime. Alright, so petroleum and alcohol is one of them. Alright, so next point, the centre will very soon disclose its strategy to revive stagnant private investment, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said on Thursday. Next point, Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan had recently said his ministry had proposed bringing petroleum products under the purview of GST in consumer interest to ensure a uniform tax mechanism instead of the current dispensation where states levy a value-added tax and the centre levies excise. So he's saying the usual thing is going on right now for the petroleum products, and petroleum products are subject to VAT and the value-added tax and central levies. Alright, so the central taxes, that is in the form of excise. Alright, still yet to come under GST. Next point, the minister said the government never had any reservations about privatization and had an ambitious target for disinvestment this year. The ministerial group on ailing national carrier Air India's sale had held a meeting on Thursday, Mr. Jaitley informed investors. So, he's saying in this point, there's an ambitious target for disinvestment this year. So, meaning there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be disinvested. So, what is disinvestment? Disinvestment is nothing but unloading the shares of a public sector undertaking. So if you have a public sector undertaking like BHEL or Delhi Metro or whatever, so the government's stakehold in it would be obviously more than 50% because they have the ownership. That is when they have the ownership of it. Alright, so the government will start to unload the shares. In the sense, they will reduce their percentage of shares and they will sell it in as an initial public offering kind of thing, and people will buy the shares from it. Private people will buy the shares from it, and it will no longer be a PSU. It will no longer be a public sector undertaking. Alright, that is the logic behind, not logic, that is the explanation for moving from PSUs to private companies. Alright, so the government might unload shares to the extent of 51% also. Alright, so just because they will be having the necessity required shares to maintain their ownership, alright, as a majority stakeholder. Whatever in excess they have also they might try to disinvest. Alright, so this is only known as disinvestment. So he's saying they have an ambitious target this year for disinvestment. They're going to disinvest in a lot of the PSUs. He's saying a lot of private players is going to come into PSUs. Alright, so next point, in last few years market was quite volatile at times, so the government had to wait for the right time for disinvestment. So there's a reason why they didn't do it last year, it seems. Alright, he said the market was volatile. Kind of confusing, because it is more volatile now, the market. The growth has even gone down and all that, and they're trying to disinvest. So anyway, let's go to the next point. Mr. Jaitley said while he was personally in favor of a universal basic income, the only reservation he had about implementing such a program was the level of political maturity in India. So universal basic income is every individual countries, alright, where the basic income is given. For example, in countries like even Venezuela, alright, Venezuela that is currently going under some turmoil, some problem internally. So even Venezuela had basic income, alright, under Hugo Chavez. He was the previous leader of Venezuela. So he had given basic income to all his citizens there, alright. So Canada is also trying this in a small level. Alright, they have just started as a pilot project to see the effects and how it goes and all that. Alright, so yeah, so that's what he's saying, that his government has no reservations about it, but he feels that the government should acquire some sort of political maturity. Alright, this obviously the last statement doesn't ring a bell, because when he's saying political maturity, it is his party in power. So whatever it is. Alright, so let's go on to the next news piece. The heading says, Cabinet to soon take up $5 billion convention center project. So this is the subheading for it. Note on approval, SPV formation to be considered. Alright, so this is the subheading for it. So let's get to the news. First point. The Union Cabinet will soon take up the proposal for a $5 billion worth world-class and state-of-the-art exhibition cum convention center (ECC) in the national capital, built as the largest facility in Asia when completed by 2021. So this is the first point. So make a note out of it, where they are trying to bring the first conventional center. Alright, an exhibition center, the state-of-the-art exhibition center. So it is supposed to be in Delhi. Alright, so when completed, it's going to be the Asia's largest, it seems. Okay, which is obviously overtaking China. No, let's see. Let's hope that China is not building something huge, because they have the largest, that, biggest, this, and all that. So those people are known for building huge structures currently. Let's see. Next point. By this month end, the Cabinet will consider for a discussion a note on approval of the project and formation of a special purpose vehicle to implement the same, official sources told the Hindu. So SPV, special purpose vehicle, I've already told you, there's something like a subsidiary. Alright, I've told you I think the previous date business newsline. So I've told you that the special purpose vehicle is like a subsidiary that's started under a main company, but even if the main company goes bankrupt, this company that has been started is actually kind of independent of that. Alright, so even if the main company goes bankrupt, this will stay. Alright, like a separate company, though it comes under the main company. Alright, that is only known as a special purpose vehicle. So let's continue with the point. Part of the 100 okay, this is another important point. Okay, please note it down. It is part of the $100 billion Mumbai Delhi Industrial Corridor, alright, DMIC. So it is part of the DMIC project that is worth $100 billion, alright. It would be developed on public-private partnership model using viability gap funding of the center if required. So public-private partnership, as it's the very sentence, the very words suggest that it is a public-private participation in the sense from the government as well and from the private companies as well, alright, both of them. So under public-private partnership, what happens is there is a long-term contract, alright, a long-term contract that happens between the private company and the government, and it would be for providing a public asset or service, alright, constructing something, creating something, or to take the service, which is eventually for the public, in which the private parties would bear the management responsibility, and for this the remuneration and all that, alright, the salaries being paid or whatever, that will be based on performance and it will come from the government, alright. So example for this would be Delhi Metro and all that, how the metro is being handled by the private companies, alright, under contract. So this is a kind of but they are still doing it for the government, right? So this is a proper example of public-private partnership, alright. So these are the important points about in this news piece. So let's go on to the next one. The main heading: Business Cabinet to soon take up $5 billion convention center project. Sorry, it's not done. I'll continue with the same news piece. Next point: the SPV will be a 100% subsidiary of DMIC Development Corporation. So the special purpose vehicle they're going to create is going to be a 100% subsidiary of the Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor Development Corporation. So you should remember under whom this thing comes under. Under. Alright. So remember that it is under the DMIC Development Corporation. Alright. So let's get to the next point in this. The SPV will be given the rights to activities including subleasing of land parcels, subcontracting project components, granting long-term concessions to private developers, as well as fixing lease rentals. So this special purpose vehicle has a lot of powers, alright. So they can lease and they can subcontract too. Subcontracting is also allowed, meaning they themselves are working in a contract, right, kind of. So they'll be having this power to lease and give out contracts to other local players there, private people there, alright, private businesses there. So it can also give long-term concessions and all that to promote private developers and all that, alright. So that with all these powers, the special purpose vehicle was created, alright. Next point: the project became necessary as India lacked an integrated world-class facility that can meet the requirements of global ECC, in the sense global ECC operators in terms of space, project facilities and transportation linkages. The center has said, alright. So we have the kind of potential, but we lacked an industrial corridor, alright, a full dedicated industrial corridor to carry out our exhibition and all that. So that was lacking is what they say. Next subheading: MICE market. Though the size of the global meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions, that is only MICE. So you might want to note down what MICE is. Alright, so it is meetings, global meetings, initiatives, global meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions. Alright, MICE market is about $280 billion. Alright, and that of Asian MICE market was about $60 billion. India did not benefit due to the lack of world-class ECCs, it said. Alright, so this is the facts and figures in it. So the entire world market of the of using a ECC would be $200 billion, and in Asia alone it is $60 billion, and we are not tapping into it. So Asia's who's actually tapping into it, obviously it would be China and Japan. Alright, so they are the major countries, super major countries there. So right now we are actually rooting for being in that league. Alright, so we'll also try to harness that market that is there. The next news piece, these are the informations in this news piece, current news piece. So let's move on to the next one. The heading says Panasonic has 5% revenue via rugged devices from India. Subheading, looks to expand in sectors such as telecom and healthcare. So let's get to the news. First point, Japanese technology player Panasonic expects India to contribute at least 5% to revenues from its rugged devices. So this is the point. This is the only point that is useful for us. And what you have to know in this is about rugged devices. Alright, rugged devices are nothing but devices that are expected to work and last under harsh and extreme conditions. Alright, so that is only known as rugged devices. So they are those devices that are expected to work in harsh conditions. Alright, so that is the point from this news piece you have to remember. So that that market they are looking to capitalize in India. Alright, so next news piece, heading, Rupee dips amid fiscal stimulus speculation. Subheading, dollar gains globally after Fed's moves. So let's get to the main news. The rupee weakened by more than 50 paise or 0.8% against the dollar on Thursday amid growing speculation that the center was considering a fiscal stimulus package to rekindle economic growth, a move that could widen the fiscal deficit and possibly risk fanning inflation. Alright, so the rupee has weakened, meaning more rupees for a dollar. Not the $1 is equal to 50 rupees scenario. It is the other way about. It is the 70 rupees for $1 scenario. Alright, so that has happened right now. And when this has happened, the center is considering to actually move into widening the fiscal deficit. It seems they want to provide a stimulus package, meaning they will bring down the policy rate. The policy rate, when it comes down, what happens is the loans that are borrowed by the commercial banks, alright, from the RBI, when those things go down, obviously the loans interest also goes down. So much more money with the bank, with the commercial banks like HDFC, Axis and all that. So they will get the money, and these would be distributed to the population. So obviously more money with the population. So at the end what happens again? The rupee will be more weakened, alright, because the money is available with all the people and they will be spending more. So what is there available more and more, that will be weak. Alright, so lose money. That is a scenario of lose money. So when the fiscal deficit is actually, we are trying to bring down the fiscal deficit, these sort of moves would widen it, and they are saying this could possibly risk the ever increasing inflation. Yeah, right, because more money means these people will spend more, and when they spend more, what would happen is, when they spend more, what will happen? the commodities price increase, alright, because you have more money in hand, you're willing to spend more. So when you're willing to spend more, obviously inflation happens. So this is what people fear if such a move happens, alright. Next point, the rupee ended at a 2.5 month low at 64.81 a dollar. Alright, low in the sense it is not actually low. They are saying in 2.5 months time this has been the highest. So right, it has hit the 64.81 a dollar mark. Next point, the yield on the 10-year benchmark government bond rose 10 basis points to 6.68%, its highest close since May 24. Alright, 10 basis points means 0.1. Alright, so 0.1% it has gained. Alright, it has come up. So what do you mean by yield of a bond? Alright, when you're purchasing a bond from anybody, that first of all you have to know how the bonds actually work. So you're getting that bond thingy from the government or any agency. The thing is, you're giving money to them. Alright, so they will be promising a certain percentage of interest every month to you. Alright, so that will be on the bond contract. So based on the percentage of interest, you'll be receiving that percentage of interest every month. Alright, so what do you mean by the yield? So yield is actually interest rate divided by face value. Alright, so face value in the sense the value of the bond. Alright, the market rate or whatever. So interest rate divided by the face value. So as the value increases, as the face value increases, the yield would decrease. Alright, because it is coming in the denominator, right? So as the face value increases, the yield would decrease. Do not get confused with the literal meaning of yield. It does not stand for the amount of money that could be the percentage of money that can be got from the bond. No, it is not that. Yield has a separate formula. Alright, so that is a separate formula, the formula that I've just talked about. Alright, the next point, the Federal Reserve's decision on Wednesday to start unwinding its balance sheet starting October and signals that it would raise US interest rates one more time this year also lifted the dollar globally. So the US Federal Reserve is the central bank of USA. So Federal Reserve has started to unwind its balance sheet. What do you mean by unwinding the balance sheet? So it is simple. What they're doing currently, trying to do is, banks actually purchase securities and bonds and all that. Alright, a central bank, they do that basically to get money going into the economy. Alright, they want to disperse cash into the economy. So what they will do is they will buy securities and all that and keep it with them. So and in this case, if you compare, they are purchasing securities from private companies and all that, and they're buying it with dollars, right? So a lot of dollars will be spread to the economy, to the population. So you have an instance where dollar is available more. So it is a loose currency we are talking about. Alright, so the dollar is loose, the dollar is not dear. Alright, so the dollar amount will be actually reduced. The worth of dollar is actually low. Alright, so that is what is done. But now they have accumulated a lot of securities and bonds like that, it seems. Okay, so when they are saying they're gonna unwind their balance sheet, it means that they are going to disperse those things. Alright, they're going to sell these things. Alright, they'll sell these bonds and securities. So while selling, what happens is the outside people, they would purchase it, right? So the dollars would come back to the central bank. Alright, so it comes back to the Federal Reserve in this case. So when it comes back, what happens is few dollar would be left in the economy, few amount of dollars will be left in the economy, meaning whatever that is few number, right, the value of it would increase. So the dollar will start to gain strength because of this. So there's gonna be a lot of reverberations of the increase of value of dollar all over the globe. Okay, that is what people feel. And there are signals that there would be a rise in US interest rates too. So when you're raising the interest rates, it means that the central bank would give lesser amount of loans because the interest rate is high, right? So lesser amount of loans to the other banks. So the other banks will have lesser money in hand, lesser money dispersed. So this is essentially, these two moves are essentially a move for strengthening the dollar. Alright, so that might be a problem, alright, to all the countries that are trading normal trade, because dollar is the international currency, right? So that is going to be a problem for all of them. Next point, currency analyst at Kotak Securities: rupee weakened all major global currencies. Alright, rupee has weakened against all major global currencies, he is saying. So meaning rupee has weakened against dollar, and dollar has and rupee has weakened against euro, pounds and everything. Alright, so generally rupee has weakened in front of everything. Alright, so meaning a lot of rupees are available. That is what it essentially says. So we should also tighten rupee for a bit, right, to increase the rupee's value. So when you do that, some sort of stability will be maintained. But still, when rupee is actually losing its value, right, when rupee is weakening, the general notion is a lot of investments would come in, because for their dollar or euro, they're getting more rupees in return, right? When rupee is weakening, it is a situation that $1 is getting 70 rupees instead of $1 getting 50 rupees. Alright, so when you're getting 70 rupees for $1, you will try to invest more in India, right? So that is the logic behind it. Next point under this, currency dealers said a fiscal stimulus could result in the government likely missing this year's fiscal deficit target of 3.2% of GDP. So this is the last point under this. So the fiscal stimulus, alright, would lead to the government's missing of this year's fiscal deficit target of 3.2%. So they are saying they won't be able to maintain the target which they had. Saving the budget, alright. So this is a part of that. So they're not supposed to spend beyond a point, so that the budget reconciliation can happen. Alright, so that is like the FRBMA Act, right? So that target for this year was 3.2%, and they are saying it won't be met. So let's move on to the next news piece. Next news piece, the heading is Appellate Tribunal grants waiver to Ministry. So the mystery problem with Tata Sons, that has been going on for a while right now, and Tata has decided to go for lifting the public-private limited thingy, and it wants to be a private limited. Alright, so mystery, and from his side there is a lot of opposition. Okay, so I will take you through this point. Only the main point. Then you'll understand. You'll actually get a picture of what the problem is. The first point: while the combined stake of the two investment firms of Mr. Mistry is pegged at 18.4% of the ordinary equity shares of Tata Sons, the stake falls below 10% if the preferences shares are also taken into account. Tata Sons is of the view that mystery firms hold only 2.17% stake in the company. So what we understand from this is mystery actually has 18.5% worth of shares, but Tata is saying of that majority portion is made up of preference shares. So therefore we cannot count you as the actual shareholding in the actual shareholding crowd. So what is a preference share? Normal share, you buy the share of a company, equity share of a company, alright, and whatever profit they get, you will get your piece. Alright, and if there is a loss, there's nothing you can do about it. Alright, if there is a loss, you're gone, that's it. So it is kind of a risky business, but yeah, whatever profit that you the company gets would be distributed. So it can be high yielding at times too. Alright, but preference shares, they are dividends. Alright, they are dividends that are actually fixed. Alright, in the sense, the share profits that are being distributed, right? For the preference shares, already in the contract when they are buying, it will be written that a certain amount should be dispersed compulsorily. Alright, just like a bond, there is a fixed price that is agreed. So monthly that price should would be reaching the person. Alright, so that is preference share. So here under the preference share, the dividends would be fixed, and they will also be the first one to be paid. Alright, when the company is actually rolling out the dividends to all their shareholders, the preference share people would be treated first. Alright, they will be dispersed the dividends first. So it's kind of a literal meaning of it only. Alright, the preference has been given to them first hand. So, and while the company, right, when the company also tries to liquefy its assets, like in the sense the company wants to shut down or it wants to reduce its share stake. Alright, so when they are trying to do that, they will actually, or the company is going bankrupt and all that, they will actually settle those people with the preference shares first. Alright, they will settle their money first and only then go for the other people. Alright, so these people will be the first to get their money back from the company that is trying to liquefy. So these people are only known as preference share people. So Tata is saying Mystery is having let it be whatever shares he has, but the majority, more than 90% of the shares are of the preference share type. Alright, so therefore we cannot consider you as a regular shareholder, and you cannot question the authority of the board members. Alright, the resolutions of the board members. That is what Tata Sons are saying. Alright, so these are the major economic and business news for today. So I'll see you with the next series tomorrow. Alright, I'll be uploading that very soon. Thank you, see you.